Penix does hit. Now you can't go build around Penix because you're having dead cap money. So now you have your rookie quarterback, but you're still paying $150 million over here. What do we talk about is the goal in football? If you can go get the Purdy situation where you have the young guy and you don't have a bunch of dead cap, you go build around.
Penix steps in and it's like there's no way he's going to win this job back. It's a big wash in year 2, but there's a lot of dead money in year 3 and year 4.
I don't like the fact that they gave Cousins a 4-year deal. I believe wholeheartedly they think they made a mistake. His Achilles is not going to hold up. Yeah, buddy. We're not live anymore. NFL Draft Live show was last week. Appreciate everybody tuning in. My name is Jonathan Sawyer. With me and my brothers, of course, TreyDay, the Mime, Grandpa J, and Mike A. Fellas, happy Thursday. We're back doing our thing. Not talking football for another 4 months.
Yeah, right.
yeah,
sure.
2 weeks.
Couple minutes.
How was your weekend? How was your sports weekend? What is new?
Who's going to jump first?
I love when I ask that question. Like, what's going on, everyone? Everyone just is like,
who's going first?
Yeah.
Who's going first?
No, hey, listen. My sports are doing well. The Giants didn't fuck up the draft. The Rangers beat the Capitals. Like, everything's looking good right now. The Yankees are all right. Sometimes.
I mean,
a little bit of a slide.
A little bit of a slump, but it's...
The Oakland series was but they're getting back there.
Oakland was 3 weeks ago.
Working at McDonald's.
Daniel Jones.
This,
well, you got yourself your quarterback. I mean, you got yourself your player you wanted, your receiver. So you should be happy with that.
Yeah.
TreyDay, me and you's teams we're gonna go chill with LeBron and Jimmy on the Cancun Island.
Yeah, be like that sometimes. Better team won. I mean, at the end of the day, those were heavy favorites. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, NBA and NHL playoff is in mid-form right now. I mean, some great games on both levels. Plus, we have great golf. I know everybody's watching that. And I got TreyDay sleeping over there on me because of it. I heard Rafa got beat this week. I can't believe it. Is the GOAT done? Is the GOAT done? But, it's never done, and that's been killing it lately for us, is what's on Mike's mind. So I got to throw it over to Mike because no one wants to hear me talk anymore. So, Mike, take it away.
Cincinnati Reds legend Ed Roush was once ejected for sleeping. On June 8th, 1920, the defending champion Reds were tied with the New York Giants, not New York football Giants, New York baseball Giants, 4-4 going into the bottom of the 8th. Giants left fielder George Burns hit a ball down the left field line for a double, but Reds manager Pat Moran was sure it was a foul ball. So Moran, and eventually a few other Reds players, began arguing with umpire Barry McCormick about his call, an argument that lasted several minutes. Becoming bored with waiting, Roush dropped his glove and laid down in the outfield, falling asleep by the time the argument was over and the call was eventually upheld. But no one could wake Roush up afterwards. By the time they finally got him up, McCormick had become frustrated with the delay in the game and threw Roush out.
I remember that game. I told him not to chug a 6-pack before the game.
Yeah, you were there, right?
Yeah, I was telling him, "Come on, bro, you shouldn't drink that much before the game tonight."
Grandpa Jay's like, I agree with what he's doing.
Yeah.
Whenever and wherever.
Let me take a nap too.
In the middle of a game, wherever and whenever.
I feel like that's how it is in like Little League. Like if you play if you knew you sucked in Little League if you got put in right field. And a lot of times it was, the kids playing with the flowers or chasing the butterfly.
I thought Mike played in right field.
Oh.
I had a few appearances.
Yeah, so I mean, that's an interesting sleeping fact. Well, Grandpa Jay, you've been texting in our group chat. You've been very upset lately about your picks off the Grandpa Jay's Locks of the Week. So let's get back on it with your Locks of the Week. So let's get it rolling, brother.
Yeah, the private stuff, we keep it in the group because I'm not too sure if you guys want all that info. But the info we do give, we've been doing nothing but winning, baby. So here's what we're going to dial up this week. I definitely think that this week's locks center around the Game 7 Magic because I got some Game 7 Magic on my mind. Now, here's where I'm going with this. Looks like the Stars might hold on to finally win a home game because in that series, it's been nothing but the road teams dominating. So Stars win Game 5. I'm saying Vegas wins Game 6 at home because this series stinks of a Game 7. These teams do not want to go home. Both of these teams are giving each other their best shot every night in and night out. So give me the Golden Knights to win straight up in Game 6 at home to force a Game 7. And then the Cleveland Cavs, who forgot there was a Game 4 a couple nights ago, are heading back to Orlando, and that might be one of the most electrifying places right now in basketball. They've been dying for a home game for way over 10 years now, and I love what I'm seeing in the Magic at home. In fact, they only lost Game 5 by 1 point. Granted, they were down by 4, and Banchero decides to shoot a freaking 3 he shouldn't have shot. However, the Magic will force a Game 7 as well, and they will run away with Game 6. So let's take the Magic to cover by 4.5. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen, dialing up a Friday night lock that will hit. It's Vegas at home to beat the Stars. And then we got the Magic Game 7 to run away with it and cover 4.5. And if you want a bonus bet, we can head across the pond where Arsenal will be taking on Bournemouth. Last time they played them in September, 4 different goal scorers. The outcome's 4-0 on the road. I expect Arsenal, who has been doing nothing but scoring goal-ass galore, to score more. So I got 2 bonuses for you. You could take Arsenal to win by 2.5 goals. That means they got to win by 3. You can get that at plus 130 right now. Or you could take Bukayo Saka to score a goal. You did that in the last fixture. He'll do it again. You can get that at plus 110. So if you want to ride Arsenal and take Saka to be an anytime goal scorer, you're going to end up winning some more moolah on Saturday. But for now, if you just want to play it safe and stay on this side of the soil, take the Golden Knights to win at home and take the Magic to win at home. Both of those teams going to force a Game 7 in their series.
The Kia Center was rocking. And Keenan is our friend who actually works for the Orlando Magic. The 1-2-3 hype team or something like that. 3-2-1 hype team. I don't know. But he works for them, and he said it was absolutely insane in there. Loudest he's heard it. And, yeah, I mean, I'm glad that it's loud during a playoff game because I was worried during Shaq's ceremony when it was like ghost town. But that is a very interesting pick that you're picking, though. You're predicting that it's going to Game 7, and we're not even through Game 6 yet, or 5. So basically you're predicting the winner of Game 6, and then you're predicting the winner of Game 7. At this point.
I was saying both those teams are going to win Game 6 to force a Game 7.
Force a Game 7. Okay, gotcha.
Force a Game 7.
Gotcha. Okay, so pick your Game 7 then winners.
No, I ain't doing that yet.
No,
come on, give the people what they want.
No, because
if you guys come onto our social, we might have it up in our story this weekend. But you do that, you can on our social and follow us.
Yes, the people have to come back for that Game 7 pick. You don't get it early.
As Jalen Rose always says, give the people what they want.
It's about time we make a change. I do start to feel after all this time that maybe the NBA awards should be handed out after the season. Let's be honest, a chunk of y'all fans only watching the playoffs. And a factor why a lot of the players don't play during the regular season is because what do the fans say? Y'all don't. It doesn't count unless the player wins a championship. So then you get your best play in the playoffs as a whole different ball game. For example, if we were to give out the most clutch player in the NBA right now, most people would give it to Jamal Murray. Why? Because of what we just seen. The guy just took 2 shots and just took a team out the playoffs. So that's going to be what we remember in the long run. When you look at MVP last year, a lot of y'all were at the end like, damn, maybe we shouldn't have gave it to Embiid. Maybe we should have gave it to Jokic. And your mind was changed because of what you saw throughout the playoffs, what you saw throughout the finals. Now, I know some people will say, but it's a regular season award. But the thing is, NBA fans for a while now have proved that they can give a damn about the regular season. All they care about the playoffs. What do we have? Playoff Jimmy, Playoff P. Paul George called himself that. So at the end of the day, we might need to start factoring the playoffs into our awards. Eric Spoelstra, how many times has he probably been the best coach in the league? And we say, look what he's done with the Heat. He's coached them up. But then the Heat comes as 8 seed, so everybody forgets about Spoelstra. Then he goes out here, runs miles around somebody, and everybody remembers like, oh yeah, Spoelstra is probably the first, second, or third best coach in the league every fucking year. So at the end of the day, I don't know if the NBA ever do it, but I would probably consider maybe moving the regular season award to the end of the season so we get a full scope on what actually happened throughout the season when we're looking back at these things historically.
We have already seen eliminated teams and some teams that were just grateful to make it to the playoffs. But which teams that were eliminated will not make the playoffs next year? Grandpa Jay?
Well, Trey, I hate to go there, but it's the Los Angeles Lakers. And here's why.
Clippers? You meant the Clippers.
No, I meant the Lakers.
You must have meant the Clippers.
And here's why.
There were 2 teams in Los Angeles.
Yeah, but here's why I think the Clippers are actually going to clean their shit up and get their shit together.
Clean.
The Lakers have a player by the name of Anthony Davis, who we know played about 74 games this year. And what we know is chances of him doing that for 2 years in a row, almost playing a full season, extremely slim. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what he does in the offseason, something's going to come up with AD next year because I cannot tell you the last time that guy had 2 consecutive seasons of playing more than 50 games. What does that mean? Well, that means that LeBron's got to shoulder more in the offseason. And right now, if they're not going to get their act together and kind of get that bench looking like they can provide some kind of spark, I can't see this team doing well enough in what seems to be a changing of the guard Western Conference to make a playoff push. They're probably going to be in the play-in game again. And yes, they could probably win out of the play-in game, but it all depends on the matchup. And if AD is not available, then who knows if they can win that game. Of course, I'm never doubting what LeBron is capable of, but if he has to shoulder too much and signs, there's no signs that he's slowing down right now. But you have to think that if he's going to have more output in the regular season and he doesn't have AD to help carry this team into the playoffs, who knows what's going to happen at that point. And I hate to say it because I would hate to see him miss the playoffs, but I think the Lakers are not going to be in the playoffs next year.
Well, you do realize the play LeBron James Invitational, correct? LeBron James always wins in the play-in. They're going to make a play-in trophy, and it's going to be named after LeBron.
It's going to be shit. It's going to be LeBron like going up like this.
Yeah, so you really think if they got a matchup with another team with a big man, you really think that Anthony Davis not on the court and they still win that play-in game?
Because I think they'll make moves. I'm not saying they're going to go win a championship next year, but they're still, for once, they're actually willing to make moves. Now they actually can trade 2 first-round draft picks, which they weren't able to do before. D'Angelo Russell will be gone, should be gone, but more than likely to be a sign and trade, so something should be able to come back from that. Then you'll probably, as Trey said in the final whistle, go and check out our socials for that. You can maybe get rid of Rui and get rid of Austin Reeves to try to take that to flip for something. I'm not saying championship, but they'll be in the playoffs. It's not them who's going to take the step back here.
The problem with the Lakers that I was looking at when I put the final whistle, up and showed it is that they're $71 million in the luxury tax, right? So I know most teams probably are into that realm. I was looking at all the guys like you got AD and LeBron, but then you got guys like D'Angelo Russell making $20 million.
D'Angelo's a free agent though.
Yeah, he will be. He will be this year. Oh, okay. So that comes off the books. Yeah. But that comes off the books, right? You got like other guys on there that are making like 10, 50. You got Gabe Vincent making $10 million, and I know that's the new NBA, but it shouldn't be. He is not a $10 million player. You can't be $10 million. Let me be a bench player. I could do more than Gabe Vincent did this year for you guys. All he did was sit on the bench.
Was hurt all year. So you know that.
But like for real,
all you had to do was put a uniform on and step on the court.
For $10 million, sign me up, Los Angeles.
Yeah, right?
Let's go. Like I just feel like the Lakers have to kind of take a step back in the sense of with how they're paying these guys. It'll never happen just because of how the NBA is structured now, where these low management type players are getting paid astronomical, right? It's almost like giving the 53rd guy on the NFL roster $15 million because he's there. It just doesn't make any sense to me anymore.
No, I don't mind.
I'll just throw it out to you real quick. Oh, one sec, Trey. Since we're discussing it right now, Gabe Vincent's not the answer. Who's the answer at point guard?
Bronny James. The next big three. We'll get to that later.
No, I mean, ultimately, it's not even. With something like Gabe Vincent making 10, everybody has multiple guys like that making 10 because that's what the salary cap reflects. So you can't look at, you have to look at 10 mil today's NBA like what you used to look at a $5 million player as with today's NBA. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make now is they say, oh my God, this guy's making 10 mil. 10 ain't what 10 used to be. 10 is literally like 5% of the salary cap at this point because that's what the NBA is doing. The reason Gabe Vincent's bad is because Gabe Vincent didn't play. That's what the issue is. Not because 10 mil didn't kill him at all. Yeah. He could have played worth 10 mil. Can he be healthy is what I have to look at Gabe Vincent.
Do you think the salary caps mimic kind of like what's going on in the NBA with how players are doing this?
The salary cap is going on in America. Everything's fucking inflated, and what used to cost and we used to look at as expensive is now normal. Like that's what the salary cap mimics in the NBA. You used to say, okay, I can go get a loaf of bread for this, and now you're like, damn, that's crazy. But then you step back, and then you see like a gallon of gas, and you're like, man, that's a good deal. And then you look back like, I looked at that shit like it was trash 3 years ago. And that's what the NBA is. And then taking in mind, the NBA, their collective bargaining is coming up again for TV rights is about to spike again. So that 10 mil is about to look like shit again. Because we all thought all these deals were bad right before Durant went to the Warriors. And before you knew it, you were looking at those contracts that we thought were bad. It was like, oh, that's not that bad. And it's like, yeah, it is.
I guess that's how like when I said in my post earlier about LeBron transcending the game. This is how he transcended the game in a way. He on the court too, right? But also contractual, right? He was getting guys when he played for the Heat, when he played for the Cavs, like big ass contracts, right? So
Chris Paul was the one doing all the work behind the scenes with that because he was president.
He was part of it, but I mean, LeBron getting the numbers.
Yeah, but Chris Paul did it and timed it when he was ending a certain contract. But still have allowed him to sign the extension. Chris Paul was the most instrumental person behind this, and of course, everybody was backing him, right?
So Tampa.
But that's why a lot of the players don't fuck with Chris because some of them say that this benefited him, some of his buddies, some of the top tier, but didn't benefit. I guess again to go back to where we're at, this didn't benefit the lower class of the NBA, but the rich got richer. So Chris and some of the older vets did.
All right, Trey, who's your team that's not going to make the playoffs next year, NBA and NHL?
Well, it's a lot still left to be decided in the NHL, so we're going to keep this in the NBA here. I can't believe Jamie didn't say this. The fucking Phoenix Suns. Why in the fuck would they make the playoffs? Y'all want to talk about bad salaries? Bradley Beal has.
It's because I knew you were going to say the Suns. That's why.
Bradley Beal has the worst contract in the NBA. But like, I don't see where the Suns out is. Eventually, sooner than later, and I told y'all this before, Devin Booker is going to ask out. There is no reason for him to keep staying there and go put up with this shit. Devin Booker's too young and wasting his prime out there. Durant will be 36 next year. We talk about injuries. Durant's been injured out of his career. We can't guarantee Durant's going to be able to play healthy through that. So I'm looking at them. I mean, Bradley Beal is making $50 million next year, $53 million the next year. Oh, and actually, I have breaking news. Bradley Beal has a player extension a couple years from now worth $57 million. You want to know the breaking news? He's accepting that shit. You think he's going to turn down that $57 million? They're fucking stuck. So when I look at the Phoenix Suns, they're going to have to break the house down to rebuild this team. It's going to be Bradley Beal and a bunch of guys, and I mean for the next 2 years. But Booker, Durant, one of those two are probably going to ask out. And you got to remember, too, the Suns only weren't in the playoff game because of a tiebreak with the Pelicans. They asked us damn near in the playoff play-in, so they almost didn't make the playoffs this year. So, yeah, the Suns are booking now. Go ahead. I'm going on FanDuel right now to book it. The Suns ain't making the playoffs next year.
Devin, book it.
I guess the team that I'm going to say in the East is the Cavs. I don't think they are because I think they're going to potentially. I thought we said
teams are eliminated.
Huh?
I thought you said teams that were eliminated.
Oh, yeah, the Cavs are not eliminated. My bad.
The Cavs are not eliminated.
Yet.
The Cavs are literally up 3-2, and you just put them out of the playoffs.
I just kicked their ass. Sorry. My bad.
Well, he was going off of Jamie's locks of the week.
Remember, our show is a weekly show, so I gotta have it paced.
I see.
I was getting him some insider info since my TV's 14 days ahead, so I was just gonna let them know.
Okay, so the Cavs end up losing. All right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I think.
Do we win?
Okay, so if I'm going off of that, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. So I think the Pelicans are not going to make the playoffs next year. I just feel like Zion cannot stay healthy. I feel like CJ McCollum is getting older. I mean, he's still a great player, he's all-star type level player, but it's just that
he's not an all-star type player. It's time to trade him. Sorry to cut you off. He got the
Brandon Ingram's an all-star.
If they want to, and I'm agreeing with you. If he stays there, then you are completely right why they're going to lose, because he is not an all-star type player, and you got 3 slots, and he's filling slot 3 at $30 million as not even close to an all-star level player when you look at the West guards right now. So I agree with you.
Yeah,
but I'm not. No offense.
I just couldn't see. When I watched them play against the Thunder, they were in some games, but it just seems like they just are always a step behind. And the Thunder are similar kind of in age. I think the Pelicans in age range are a similar age range, and they're so much farther ahead of the Pelicans. So I just can't see the Pelicans making that leap to the playoffs next year, because I keep thinking the playing game is playoffs, but it's not. It's the actual playoffs 1 through 8. So, but on the NHL side, unfortunately, I do not see the Washington Capitals making the playoffs next year, because I feel like Pittsburgh is going to come up, and I feel like a lot of teams are going to make a good run. So I think the Capitals got lucky getting in the playoffs this year with like teams like Detroit, Pittsburgh, kind of flanking at the end, and they were the last one standing, kind of. So I think the Capitals are pretty much done. It also seems like TJ Oshie is very up in the air with his career and how he's going to return, because he's tired of the back injuries. He said in the interview that his back injury was so bad that he would be laying on the floor and his wife would have had to go get him Gatorade bottles to pee in. He couldn't even get up off the floor. He just had to lay there and pee right in the bottle, and that's it. And I can't blame the guy, because when you talk about injuries, we talk about guys like Andrew Luck, we talk about guys like Mike Trout now getting hurt. It's one to have the injury, but it's another one to rehab. It's not like us rehabbing and going back to work. They have to rehab to play at an elite level. And when you're not able to, it's just hard to kind of go back to that sport. So I don't know how the Capitals are going to be next year. I feel like they have a lot of free agents, so I'm going to say the Capitals. Mike?
Okay, so took the words right out of my mouth. My NBA one was the Pelicans. My NHL one was the Capitals.
All right, moving on. And
yeah. No, to elaborate on that. So it kind of goes with everything you guys said. Like, Jay, you don't believe in AD. I don't believe in Zion. From day one, I haven't had a good feeling about him. It just doesn't seem like he was ever going to take that next step, and it doesn't look like he's going to. And outside of Brandon Ingram, yeah, they don't really have anybody else you can rely on to help carry the load. And even Brandon Ingram has shown that he's not the type of player that can carry the load alone. I would like to point out, by the way, during that Lakers conversation what?
Brandon Ingram can't carry the load. God damn it.
I hope he did.
I get that.
Get your mind out of the gutter, not Jesus Christ. Holy shit.
Neither can Zion, apparently. Just a couple of guys carrying loads. Go ahead.
No, Jason Collins probably could, but.
Whoa,
Jesus Christ. Glad this is pre-recorded.
No.
Exactly. That's exactly why I was okay.
Good Lord, Mike.
I would like to put.
Speak to Carl Nassib.
It's true. Speaking of Carl Nassib. Hey, maybe we can get them together. Anyway, I would like to point out that during that Lakers. Trey, the heart wants what it wants. Ooh, this conversation went downhill real quick.
I need to turn the air on.
I would like to point out during that Lakers conversation, Trey did refer to himself in the third person, and I approve.
Damn, man, now he's calling out Trey. Mike is a changed man, everyone.
I have had a week. Anyway.
No holding back, baby.
No holding back. Yeah, so I don't for NBA side, I don't see the Pelicans. I think they'll take a few steps back as far as what they're doing. It sucks for Pelicans fans, but they may be
Sorry, I'm posting the final whistle.
I understand. I understand.
Restart that.
It sucks. So it does suck for Pelican fans, the fact that they're probably going to be headed for another rebuild or another retooling where they're going to have to, like, instead of making the big trade that got them like Brandon Ingram and at the time Lonzo Ball and guys like, and Josh Hart, I think, also in that deal with the AD deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to have to do that with Brandon Ingram, it seems like, at some point, and probably CJ McCollum too, obviously a lesser return than they got for AD. And on the NHL side, yeah, it's the Washington Capitals. Like Mike said in his final whistle, go check out on our socials, the final whistle, the Washington Capitals. They are their best players are older. And as John pointed out with TJ Oshie, very banged up. Even Ovi just doesn't have the same step when it comes to like a long series anymore. And that's it's kind of like to an extent LeBron. It's like, yeah, have they slowed down a bit? Yeah, but only because of age, and their slowdown is still above average for the league. And I point this statistic out not because I'm a Rangers fan and the Rangers are the ones that did it, but this was the only time in his entire playoff career that Ovi has been held goalless in a playoff series. And it's just because
There's no one else to score the puck.
There's no one else to score. Oshie's hurt.
Yeah.
Like his back is bad. Nicholas Backstrom, as I said in the final whistle, has been hurt out all year and probably will never play in the NHL again. And that was Ovi's tag for a wrestling term, tag team partner. Like, they were the guys that helped carry that offense when it was down. Now they just don't have anybody. John Carlson's older. Their goaltending situation is not what it used to be. Like, this isn't
changes every year.
And no, it does. Like, this year it was Darcy Kemper, I believe, is like 35. So, like,
not even. It wasn't even him in the playoffs. It was the young kid. It was the young kid.
Oh yeah,
Lindgren's brother.
Lindgren, who I think's a good goalie, but he's not at this point. I think he can be, but at this point is not a carry you through the playoffs goalie. And when it comes down to, and we talked about it 1,000 times before, good goaltending wins the Stanley Cup. So yeah, I think it's time for them to enter a rebuild, or at least retool. Take a step back, take a year off. One thing, John, I will disagree with you. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be in either. I think they're in the same boat. Crosby's a great player. Ovi's a great player, but they can't do this by themselves. And I think Letang should be done, given everything he's had to go through the last few years. Malkin, I think, is very likely to be one of those Russian guys that goes back and plays in the KHL for 2-3 years.
You've been saying that for years, bro.
I know I have.
You've been saying that for years.
I believe it. I believe it.
I don't see it. I mean, if I would have saw it happen, it would have happened already. And Sidney Crosby,
not necessarily,
had 94 points last year. What do you mean?
I'm not okay. Down? One good player, a Stanley Cup playoff team does not make. We've seen that before.
I know, but you said he slowed down, and he had 94 points.
No. I said Ovi slowed down.
I
said Crosby's still a good player. He just can't do it by himself.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, he had 94 points. How much more do you want him to have? I mean,
no. Crosby's still a phenomenal player. Again, along with Ovi and like LeBron, it's their slowdown, if they have slowed down, is still above average for the game. Right. It's just everybody. I mean, they traded Jake Gensel, who is the next best, really consistent forward outside of Crosby and Malkin.
That's why Carolina is so stacked right now. But
exactly.
One quick thing before, just because both of y'all brought the Pelicans up, you two, Mike and John and Jay brought up the Lakers. Real quick, revisit the Pelicans-Lakers trade. Now, it's ironic y'all both say that both of those two won't make it, and the whole thing was the Pelicans-Lakers making this trade, and here we are a few years later. So, of course, the Lakers got Anthony Davis. Now, what did the Pelicans get back outside of those main picks? The picks netted to become Jackson Hayes, who ironically plays for the Lakers now, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Didi Louzada, Herb Jones, and Dyson Daniels. Now, Dyson, pretty solid. Alexander-Walker, pretty solid. But where the Pelicans kind of got fucked at is they thought the Lakers would be in a much worse position, which is why they're deferring. They got one more pick left. And they're deferring it this year to next year because they thought the Lakers would be in a much worse position because they banked on AD being hurt and LeBron being over the hill. So it's kind of funny we bring that up in this conversation because there's a version where the Pelicans thought they were setting themselves up for 10 years plus, and now they may have not because of LeBron.
Right.
And they had to play the Lakers to get into the playoffs too, right? This year too, so yeah.
As I always say, the LeBron effect is real. It's very real in the NBA because what happens if he keeps Kyle Kuzma, if he keeps Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball? What if he keeps those guys? Because that's a very young, talented team, right? So what happens if he keeps those guys? And I say him because he is the GM of the Lakers. Rob Pelinka's just keeping the office for him, so... But he is the GM at the end of the day. So.
All right, so the Lakers are out, and all LeBron haters have had their opportunity to roast the king despite his Lakers losing 2 games to the defending champs by a total of 4 points. And oh, by the way, they led at halftime in every game in this series. So while most might think the king is fairly criticized given the ongoing debate nonstop as to whether LeBron or Jordan is the GOAT, we should first know what LeBron is still doing in year 21. And that is obviously trying to help his team win in the playoffs. By the way, this is absolutely absurd, so brace yourself for this. His numbers over the years, including the playoffs and regular season by the decades, are as follows. At the end of year 2, 27 points, 7 boards, 7 dimes. By the end of year 10, 27 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. And by the end of this year, year 21, 26 points, 7 boards, and 8 dimes. So which leads me to my final point. We will never witness anything like this in pure human form ever again. And the 22nd edition of LeBron will still be in the conversation for top 10 players in the league. And we should all feel lucky that he's not ready to move on to his next life challenge yet. Because what a treat it is to see a transcendental player play at this level every single year of his career. LeBron James, you truly are the king. And I hope you enjoy your small off season until the Olympics call your name and Team USA tries to go win another gold medal.
The way to build a team with a big 3, which way do you want to build a team? With a big 3 or depth? TreyDay.
I would say in today's NBA, you got to go for the depth. Now, I know there was a time where everybody was going big 3, big 3, big 3. But the way the salary cap works, especially with the aprons, if you take 3 people, let's look at the Phoenix Suns, it can eat up all of your roster, it eats up all of your space. And now you have to depend on these 3 guys to never get hurt, to play all the minutes. And none of them are afforded to have an off night. When you look at like the way Denver's built, for example, yes, you have Jokic. I mean, Murray's not even been an all-star before, and I'm not saying he's not an all-star level player, but what makes the Nuggets so hard to defeat is because one of them can have an off day. KCP can turn an ankle, and it's like nothing ever happens because Aaron Gordon comes in or whoever else. Actually, other side, when you look at the NBA, entering this season, 15 teams had multiple players on their roster that were either an All-NBA player or in the All-Star game within the last 3 years. So most teams are holding at least 2. So it's not really hard to get a big 2, but getting a big 3, I don't know if that separates you. So at that point, if we're all on the same playing ground, we all got 2 all-star level players, or at least half the league does based on that stat, then now it's not who has 2 all-stars, who has the depth behind those all-stars. And that's what Denver has. That's what the Celtics essentially have, as a lot of people look at those 2 as the favorites, because KP isn't an all-star right now. You don't look at Derek White as an all-star. Some people look at him as a possible, could have been, but I don't think he should have been an all-star. But these are the teams people are chasing right now, are the teams that have basically 2 all-stars and a bunch of other guys who are Swiss Army knives on the team.
Yeah, it's a balance too, right? You want to have a balance of depth plus stars, right? Like the Celtics do. They have Drew Holiday, who's a star, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. I know, Trey, you have feelings about Jaylen Brown, but he kind of stepped up this year for the Celtics in a great way and kind of have a big 3 with also having depth, right? And it's all about restructuring the contract, too. I think it's the biggest thing. How can they structure contracts in the NBA and make it a depth piece, right? Like Aaron Gordon was a star. He was a star in Magic. But he had to take probably a pay cut in order to come to play for Denver. I know he got traded there, but I'm saying I believe he re-signed there to take a pay cut.
Honestly, the thing with Gordon, he took more of a role cut.
Roll
He was able
cut.
to peel back his roll.
It's more of a self thing. It's more of a self thing. It's
Right.
digging in your own self and saying, can I take this cut? And a lot of guys can't. Some guys make their career. Jamal is it Jamal Williams, right? 6th man of the year.
No,
Jamal Crawford.
Lou Williams.
Jamal
Crawford, Lou Williams.
I'm combining 3 different people apparently.
Yeah,
So
Jamal Crawford.
Jamal Crawford and Williams, but those guys adopted that role and adopted the fact that my team needs me to come off the bench. I feel like a lot of times some of the guys are selfish and like that's okay too. Go get your money at the end of the day. If that's what you want, go get your money. But don't be having you can't have aspirations of getting a ring ever because look, if we're paying you $60 million a year, there's only so much more money I can pay everybody else before going over the luxury tax like we were just talking about. So for me personally, I would take the depth piece because depth wins championships. I mean, look at the Nuggets last year. Deep team that just outplayed the Heat. You look at the Lakers a few years ago. They had a really good deep team in the bubble.
But I was Heat too last year. I mean, when you say played the Heat had a deep. That was the Heat had 2 guys and a whole bunch of depth last year.
The Nuggets role players in depth was better than the Heat's role players in depth.
No, they were.
That's what I guess I meant to say.
No, but I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying don't undermine the Heat because the Heat actually fit into that conversation because last year with Jimmy Bam, remember you had Strus, you had Martin. What they had was depth. That's how they got through Boston on them was because they just kept every time Tatum and them go to the bench or the Sixers at the time they would just plug another guy and he would just shoot threes and it was as if the Stars were still winning. That's what the Heat had too, which is why that was the finals matchup last year.
But I also think that's the reason why the NBA has so much more parity now is because they've kind of gone away from the big 3, where now they're going back to like a big 2, where like in Oklahoma City, it's Chet Holmgren and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with a lot of great players around them, right? A lot of those players can go be great role players on other teams as well, but they're a great foundation. So when you look at teams like that, they've adopted this mentality where we're going to build our bench versus back when LeBron was going to the finals every year in the East, and it was just running through the East pretty much 4-0, 4-0, 4-1 in the finals. It was like an automatic, like, open the door, here you go, to LeBron. So I like the depth piece, but I think it's just the era we're in. If we were back when, Wade and Bosh and Melo were still a part of this, that was more of the big 3 era where having a big 3 could get you to the NBA Finals. Versus now, 8 guys on a team is going to get you to the NBA Finals. Jamie, what do you think?
I think we have to date back much further a bit. The big 3 was a thing when San Antonio was winning championships because as soon as Tony Parker came into the picture, it was Parker, Duncan, and then Manu became the guy as well. So as much as you could say San Antonio was a role-playing team, like at any given time, you could say they had 3 guys that were absolutely playing at an all-star level, especially when you go into the playoffs, to Trey's point, which is maybe when we should really extend judging players on their performance because why not? But to stick to this question, it's not just depth, it's depth at key positions. Because if we look at the West right now, you have 3 teams that can play absolute bully ball. That's the Lakers, who ran into the other team that could do it, which is Denver, and the T-Wolves. They're big enough to play bully ball against anybody. And then OKC kind of riding on the outside because Chet's a big man, but he's not – Chet's still a toothpick, right? Chet still has a lot of developing to do. And then Jay Williams off the bench is a bruiser, but he still gives up a lot of height. So there's still that height advantage and size advantage when he's playing with bigger, taller, more skillful players. So it's depth, building at the big man position in the right way. And then if you look at the teams who've been successful in how they do it, your big man has to be able to shoot because every team who's winning is stretching the floor at any chance that they get to do that. So the defense can't be honest and play to their strength because they're pulling you out. I mean, look at what the Knicks now having guys who are hitting shots is pulling Embiid further away from the basket. What does that do? Well, it means not getting as many defensive rebounds as he normally does to give Philly more second chances, more chances to score the basketball. So I really think it's more of the depth piece with the right fit at your big man position. But the big 3 still works. I mean, it's still a formula that works pretty damn good. That's why Boston went and got Drew because I think Porzingis was always the question mark. Can he stay healthy? Because he hasn't. And unfortunately, now he's gone down with a similar injury to Giannis, if not the same injury. So I think you have to mold it around a big 3 because if one star goes out, you can manage with 2. And then a team like the Pacers, a team like OKC, you get lucky enough in the draft where you get not Jalen Williams. They got in the first round, Jalen Williams from the second round from Arkansas. You got a guy who's really accepted his role and he can step in and be that guy with the second team coming off the bench. And now you have the magic that you need. You really need to know that your players can come off the bench and contribute. So in the depth, yeah, I say I have depth at this position, but can that player do what you're asking them to do? I think that's why we're seeing a change of the guard with OKC and Minnesota, because that's what Reed has been for the T-Wolves. And, I mean, the way OKC is playing right now, the depth on that squad is absolutely ridiculous. I can't even say they're 3 deep. They're 6 deep. The way those guys look out for each other on and off the court, it's incredible. So we look at OKC doing it the right way through the draft. We look at the Suns doing it the wrong way and try and piece together a big three of everybody playing the same position. And it proves that depth is the way to go right now. Mike, you agree with this, or are you switching up on us?
Yeah, so I agree with you guys. I think the depth is the way to go. And yeah, I suppose to your point, Jay, it does matter how you get your big three. These days, it's not working out as well to try to sign your big three. Draft them. Like your big three, you can create out of your draft picks. And obviously, to do that, typically you have to suck for a while, which is not good. But eventually you're able to build that up, but you still have to have that depth below them to be able to compete with the second unit from any team that you need to try to get through. And I was thinking about it, and you guys can please correct me if you think I'm wrong. Looking at the history of this, it seems to me that the Big Three era really ended with the Warriors dynasty, in the sense of
where do you consider Warriors ended? I guess would ask that question. Where do you consider
they missed the playoffs the year after they won the championship and missed the playoffs?
No. I mean the beginning of the Warriors. The beginning of the Warriors winning ended the Big Three era.
But they still had a big three.
You wouldn't call their big three a big three with Draymond?
No, I would call it a big three, but to illustrate my point, their first Finals MVP was Andre Iguodala.
But they were playing. I mean, but they went with 3, and they also were playing in the finals,
which was de facto given that Steph had the numbers to win it, but he just came up big in 2 games.
Well, that and remember, technically, if not injuries, they were playing the Cavs, who were thought to have a big three, and Kyrie, Love, and LeBron.
Love was out. Kyrie was out.
We were still actively in the Big Three era for sure then.
No, we were. I suppose I mean them continuing to win while still cycling in centers and having. Yeah, you had Steph, Clay, Draymond, but you had Iguodala. You were cycling in either Pachulia or Bogut.
But you see, ironically, it's when they stopped cycling the big men. That's when the team started to hurt.
Yeah, that's
right, because they didn't have. I guess that's my point. Is they didn't have they didn't get the right depth anymore to keep winning. They still had, obviously, Steph's going to keep going off, and Clay's going to.
But remember, they did though, because remember they kind of swapped that out for Durant, so they still had a big three.
That's true. The Durant part of it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say they swapped.
That's just over. That was just overkill.
Yeah, because they went
the only team that's proven to everybody that they won without a big three is the Raptors anomaly. What the hell happened, and how the hell did they win?
But to be fair, that's because KD tore his. And Clay tore his AC.
They still had to get to the finals.
But they lost 3 of their best players on the team, though, Jamie.
I get it, but they still had to get to the finals to have a chance to win a chance. How they did that with just Kawhi.
They tilted the rim on that shot that Kawhi made in the corner. Yeah. You didn't see him. He was just like at the fair where you see the guy moving the hoop and everything.
What was that movie again with the Wayne brother? He was the ghost.
That movie's fucking good. I love that movie. Six Man.
Yeah.
That's a good movie. That's a really
good
movie. Quick
question, Mike. While we're on Big Three, because you are the hockey expert, do you think the same thing equates in hockey as far as a Big Three versus?
Not at all. Not at all, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying.
I disagree, but go ahead. Go ahead with your point. I'll talk after.
I mean, you can't. You can have 3 stars and still not win. You can have 3 great players and still not win. You can have a team of skilled players, but if you don't have depth, you're not going to win. Especially good goaltending. If you don't have good goaltending, you're not going to win in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I.e., I know they can do it this year, the Edmonton Oilers. They had 4 number 1 overall picks in 6 years, and they still haven't won a cup with them. And that includes the best player in the world today.
This year, Mikey, it's happening.
It very well could be this year, although it's not happening this year because New York Rangers.
The hockey is winning it.
It's all about
Yes,
hockey. Hockey wins.
I'm sorry, I creased it wrong.
Yeah, all we saw was hockey.
Well, you know what? The Rangers.
I
Hockey.
hope a hockey team wins the Stanley Cup. It'd be kind of worrisome if it doesn't.
The Oakland Athletics have won the Stanley Cup championship.
Well, shit, they're not going to win a World Series, so.
No, I mean, I think the big three is in hockey is more or less you need. Like, for example, the Lightning on their cup runs, they needed a line of Kucherov, Stammer, and Point to lead the guys. I think you need that, but I also agree with Mike on the fact that you need that depth, because I said that about the Lightning is when they lost Gord, Coleman, and Gaudreau, that killer third line that scored most of the goals in the finals. That's what the team is banking on, and that's what Mike's Rangers this year have, is a third line that can go and bang with the best of them and ultimately put the puck in the net. They put the puck in the net more than the Stars right now. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I think when it comes to hockey, it's a little bit different than basketball, but I do think you need that core big three to ultimately elevate your game. But I also think it's a lot easier now in the NHL because contracts aren't as inflated as the NBA in that sense.
Not even close.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that the big three it just depends. But you have a good point on that, Jamie, when you talk about the big man, because I feel like the teams like Miami didn't have someone to substitute in other than Kevin Love for Bam Adebayo. So they were never going to contend because Kevin Love has never been a center. Let's be real. He's always played out in the corner, and that's okay, but he's not a center. When you sub him in,
he's power forward.
He's a power forward. So, I don't know. I feel like the big three era is kind of just depends on the team at this point. So, moving on to
Seattle Kraken, you've made a mistake. Recently, the Seattle Kraken let go of head coach Dave Haxtell, the first head coach in franchise history after their first 3 seasons. And in my opinion, it's a complete mistake. Yes, they did take a step back this year after a 100-point season last year, making the playoffs. But you're a young team. Like I said, it's the 3rd year of your franchise, and now everybody isn't underestimating you anymore. So naturally, you're going to take a step back. A 100-point season in your 2nd year as a franchise is a big thing. And not everybody's going to hit the ground running like Vegas did because everybody got smart in the 2nd expansion draft. So I think you need to have a little bit of patience, which includes having patience with Dave Haxtell, who has proven to be a good NHL head coach. Now, I think Haxtell is going to land on his feet. He landed on his feet after Philadelphia, got an assistant job with Toronto, which ended up leading him to the Seattle job, and I think he's going to be fine. But Seattle, I don't know if you're going to end up getting a better head coach than Dave Haxtell can be. So we're better off just keeping him, moving forward with the team you got, continuing to let your team develop, and seeing where you can get from there. So, yeah, you blew this one.
Let's move on to the NFL draft. You know, that was last week, guys, if you didn't know. The NFL draft, did you remember?
Yeah, there was some sort of
some kind of event.
And I have to give a shout out to my Birds for getting their fucking Cooper.
There's 2 teams. There was 2 teams that couldn't take him.
We have you on record saying you guys are overrated.
The thing is, I didn't even. I
dispute it.
I didn't even know you're that happy for Cooper. Every time we
I wasn't. I was not happy about it. I was more happy because Mike all show long was like Cooper DeJohn. Like, if we go back throughout the show, it's like he's going now. And to see my update come in and say Cooper DeJohn is a Philadelphia Eagle just had me dying. I mean, he's a great corner for Iowa. But a lot of people ask me, like, oh, when you watched him when he played against Michigan, like, how did he do? And I'm like, I don't know. We ran the ball almost 40 times a game when we played Iowa, so I don't really have a good verse on him.
Of course you did with your first round quarterback, run the ball 40 times, because that didn't happen plenty of times. But anyways, moving on.
So there's a lot of teams that made a lot of great moves. a lot of teams that, you know, I think it was a pretty even draft for a lot of teams. But which team, or I should say, which team's draft did you like or dislike? Mike, go ahead.
So, yeah, I'd written down just in case one that I liked and one that I disliked. I'm gonna say honestly, I liked what the Lions did because coming out of that loss in the NFC Championship game, we like the main talk was their secondary got absolutely torched. And that was the biggest problem. So what did they do? They went and actually, shocking, a team actually addressed the needs that they were talked about having, which was they needed their secondary. They went and got Terry and Arnold. They went and got Terry and Arnold. They went and got Ennis Rakestraw, and they went and got Sion Vaki, the safety from Utah. So they have completely revamped their secondary, which I think is really what they needed to do. And I think it definitely solidifies them as a big contender still because they took, for the first time in a long time, it seems, the Lions actually took what they needed to do and actually focused on doing it instead of making flashy picks. So I liked what the Lions did.
I think a lot of teams did a lot of. I think this was one of the ESPN reporters and she was saying how this was a draft where no team really stood out to me as something I didn't like that they didn't do. I was like, okay, I can see why you went there. I see why you did this. We kept questioning Buffalo. Like, why is Buffalo doing that? But I mean, did you guys realize how many picks Buffalo had? I mean, they had almost 12 picks throughout the whole draft.
They also knew who they wanted, right?
They also knew who they wanted. So,
right.
And they weren't ever going to be in tension for Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison unless they were going to give up all these picks. So I feel like they did a good job. I mean, a team that. I feel like I
think Buffalo upgraded. I think they upgraded everybody else along the way. I still think Buffalo set itself back. I just wasn't big on it.
But you were never gonna build your team. You were never gonna. I don't think getting one player in the first round. They were already backed far enough.
I'm not upgrading the team who put me out the playoffs.
Right, I didn't agree. I mean, we sat there. We were confused. You and I were confused by that. We were like, why did you trade with the Chiefs? But
I'm not saying
I don't get
Neighbors anybody. I'm saying I'm not upgrading. I'm not helping that team upgrade who I can't get past. I can't think of, maybe this has happened. I can't think of too many times in sports where I've watched the team help the team that they were chasing, and that was supposed to be like their kind of rival, if they want to call it. It's not a rivalry because the Chiefs fucking run laps on them. I mean, maybe Mike has one. Who do you have?
If I recall correctly, the Cowboys traded with the Eagles when they drafted Devontae Smith. Hello.
And look how incompetent we call it.
No, exactly. And look how it worked out.
Right, it's right. So maybe we're doing the same thing because does Devontae Smith not kick their ass all the time? I'm just saying, I didn't like the Buffalo draft in that way. Sometimes you got to stand pat and say, oh, y'all figured it out yourself. If they want to draft Keon Coleman there, they could draft him there. I mean, I know they got extra picks, but they kept helping everybody else along the way.
The one team that I didn't
and
like.
I think Buffalo needed at least 2 receivers in that draft.
The one team that I didn't like picks was Carolina because you didn't address the issue at hand, and that was the offensive line. And I don't think they did anything. Like, yeah, I get why you get Leggett. He's a good player. He's a playmaker. But you had playmakers before. You had McCaffrey, the best running back in the league, and you had fucking DJ Moore, a good top maybe 15 receiver in the league that you could have built on with Bryce Young. What he needed, and what I said to a lot of people, is they needed an offensive tackle. They needed someone to build with Bryce Young over the next few years to help get him to the next level. Now, I like their coach. I like his mentality. He was Tampa's offensive coordinator, so he was really good. But I just didn't like their first few picks. I don't think you needed a running back there. I think you could have, the running back position is kind of obsolete at this point because now they just want everything to be thrown downfield. But, I don't know. I just didn't like with your second pick to go Jonathan Brooks from Texas. Even though he was great, I don't think that was needed. They addressed some of the defensive, points with getting a linebacker from Kentucky. I don't know. I just didn't see it. The team
get used to it. Carolina possibly has one of the worst 5 owners in sports right now.
And Did you see that video?
That one, have you seen the one with him throwing the stuff at the fan in the crowd? He's always meddling. David Tepper, and I'm going to say David Tepper.
I was going to say, is that Tepper?
David Tepper is one of the worst 5 owners in professional sports right now.
Yeah.
I did a video on that one, and it was just like when he grabbed the guy's hat and pulled it off. I'm like, number one, I don't give a fuck who you are. Don't touch don't touch me. Don't touch my hat. Don't. Who the hell do you think you are? You don't run this town. Charlotte's a big enough city that the Panthers can leave and they'll be fine. So, number one. Number two, like, you make terrible picks. Just let the. I never understand why an owner makes the picks. You should have some say in a way, but that's why you hire a GM. I would have had more respect for him if he just did Jerry Jones. I respect Jerry Jones because he doesn't hire a GM. He just basically said, I'm doing this. Okay, it's not right. We don't agree with it, but at least he's not hiring someone to just sit there and be a face. You know what I mean? So, a team I liked draft is going to be kind of just based on down the road is Green Bay. I love their pick of Jordan Morgan. I loved they had a ton of picks. Jordan Morgan in 2 years is going to be great offensive guard. I know he's listed at tackle, but I think his height is going to push him to guard and his speed. Adrian Cooper is going to be a great edge linebacker for them. You know, Javon Bullard was a great safety for Georgia. They just got a lot of key picks that I think down the road in 2 to 3 years, we're going to be talking about, hey, let's build on it. And I know a lot of Packers fans are saying, oh, why wouldn't he go get a wide receiver for Jordan Love? Because you build on his confidence that he's had this past year. You do not beat it down, right? Like if you go ahead and don't get that offensive tackle, let's say Morgan plays this year and ends up being offensive tackle of the year, that's huge for Jordan Love because that is protecting him and protecting your prize at the end of the day because you decided to draft Jordan Love way back when. So, you know, I think they had a great draft. They addressed a lot of key picks. And then, of course, I love my Philadelphia Eagles pick. So I'm not going to get into that one because that's a little biased. But, Mikey, what do you think? Or you went with yours, right?
Yeah, if you want me to say the one now that I didn't like, I didn't say one that I didn't like.
I mean, I rambled on for like 20 minutes.
Just touch on your point there, John. I mean, like, I don't think they were desperate for receiver because Luke Musgrave, the Packers, Luke Musgrave missed a lot of last year. I think he comes in as a potential number 2 for you. And a lot of their young guys emerged during the playoffs, so they have no reason to doubt that they're going to be a pretty solid unit. You don't need to go and fish for more receivers in the draft. I think the guys you drafted proved last year that they're good enough to play at this level to be a 1 or a 2 or at least have a 1A, 1B kind of option in there. And somebody obviously becomes the alpha amongst that whole crew. Since we're talking about what we like, and look, your guy, I think, did the best job, John, at getting the players who he wants to create this team. And he brought in players with the DNA to build the team that he wants to build. And that's Coach Harbaugh in San Diego with the San Diego Chargers. So
he wants to run the fucking ball, and I wasn't surprised by any of his picks.
Yeah, but beyond that, I'm more impressed with what he did in the late rounds. I mean, obviously I don't think he went wrong with any of his first. You might say they had the best first 3 picks of any team. Joe Alt's the best you could have got on the line out of any of the guards out there. He was the best one. Then Ladd McConkey. Right? McConkey was like, throw it anywhere and I'll go grab it. Like, he was just that guy that was all over the field. I think Ricky Pearsall was the only receiver that had fewer drops than him in the Power 5 conferences with at least 200 attempts. And then Colson sitting there for them as well was awesome. And then you got to go down the draft and say, okay, at some point they're going to gamble on another receiver. Well, they gambled on 2 receivers in the 7th round. And this is probably the best thing that could have happened to them, right? You get Cornelius Johnson, who's a proven winner. Harvard gets the guy out of high school, come to Michigan, and he was part of that whole process to build a championship. So now you're bringing somebody in with that DNA that knows what it takes to build a championship team. And then you land Brandon Rice. And Brandon Rice sitting there as one of the last picks for them. Are you freaking kidding me? This guy they're saying could be the Isaiah Pacheco of this draft with his vicious style of play, the way he's aggressive on the ball, the way he's aggressive to get separation when he has the ball. I mean, for them to get him and Cornelius Johnson in the 7th round, those two might end up being, one of them might end up being the steal of the whole draft. So I love what the Chargers did in this draft. And like I said, it's more about defining the team in terms of who he wants. He got players with the DNA. And that's what makes a good draft to me is you get the players that you want. A lot of teams go with the best available player, But for instance, is Brock Bowers a Raider? I don't think he's a Raider. I don't know if he has.
He doesn't think he's a Raider.
Yeah.
Did you see his dad's reaction? He was just like,
yeah. So I'm like, okay, yes, he's the best available player, and the Raiders don't normally do that, but they decide to go to script. I'm more like the team to say, fuck it. This guy, he suits our DNA. This is who I want on my team. I don't care if you tell me Mel Kiper, there's 19 other players better. He suits our team, and his DNA is what we want. So
and that's the biggest thing with the draft, right? A lot of people think that these guys are going to be maybe the first 10 picks are probably going to be difference makers, right? But the rest of them are going to be guys that are building for the future. Obviously, the first 10 are too, right? But the rest of the guys are building for the future and fitting a DNA. We always say the coach needs to find players that fits his system. And a lot of times you draft a player that's just his skill set doesn't fit your mold, and then that player phases out, gets bounced around when he could have been picked up by another player. I love the Brendan Rice pick. I mean, he's obviously son of the greatest receiver of all time, so he has that DNA in him of that work ethic and knowledge of how to be a professional and how to be in there. Not saying that, we've seen this before with other great players of all time and their kids not being as good. Brandon Rice is, a pretty decent receiver. I think with Justin Herbert in that offense, I think he can take himself to the next level, maybe in a couple of years. Never his father's level. Don't get me wrong. I'm not.
John, I'll tell you something about this draft, though. I think it's more from the 15th position down in the first round that are going to have a much bigger impact to me.
Correct.
And that's because of how late the defensive players went. I mean, you're talking about Dallas Turner being the third defensive player off the board at 17. And then you got Jared Verse from Florida State, who the Rams should completely be totally happy about. I mean, this kid's going to be an animal. And then, I know Trey's going to talk about Pittsburgh getting Fatanu, and that might have just rebuilt their whole line, just him alone. And then they went out and bulked up even more. Then you got Chop Robinson. You guys got Quentin Mitchell, Brian Thomas Jr., and Taron Arnold all back to back to back like that. And then Barton sitting there for the Bucks at 25, who might be a starter from day one. I really think from 15 down is going to have a much bigger impact, other than probably Caleb Williams in this draft compared to the first 15 guys.
Yeah, agree. Trey, what you got up there?
Yeah, speaking of top 15, let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons. Did not like what they did. It's not because I don't like Penix. The thing is, I actually really do like Penix. I just know in the back of my mind, I said it on draft night, they could have traded back and still got Penix, and that's what the problem is. If you're going to go out here, you're going to go out here and pay Kirk Cousins that type of money, then you're either all in or you're all out. When you go out there and pay a quarterback over 35, that type of money, then go get something to help him win now. Because if not, what they're going to do in the long run is everybody's like, oh, Penix can just sit behind Cousins and learn. Do y'all think Kirk Cousins is A, pressed to go teach Penix how to take his spot? No. B, I'm going to call it now. Penix is going to take his spot. And then it's going to be an issue there when you got this aging quarterback making all this money and he's getting his spot taken. Because once you draft a guy that high, eventually it's going to be on the clock. Let Kirk go out there and have one of them 2 interception games. And don't tell me them folks in Atlanta ain't going to start saying, where the hell's Penix at? Put Penix in. You also now probably caused yourself a quarterback controversy once you did that. Like I said, I do think Penix is going to be possibly good. I really do. I like Penix a lot. But the Falcons, I don't see where the vision's at because you can't do both things at once. It's just simple as that. If you go out here and you try to do something to help Kurt, then go out there to help Kurt. If you think it's time to rebuild, then go rebuild. But pick a damn lane. And that's where the Falcons didn't go, and that's where I adamantly thought that was a terrible draft by the Falcons. I don't get the vision. I don't think they get the vision.
I've been the person that's been defending that pick this whole entire time. And, and I totally I've seen both sides of it, and I understand that you want to get a guy that's going to help win now because they have the team to potentially make a deep playoff run. But I guess I'm seeing their side of things that they don't, with getting Kirk Cousins and with having the team, they were a quarterback away last year from winning the NFC South. They were a quarterback away from potentially having a couple more wins, being in some of those games, and taking themselves to the playoffs. And then once you're in the playoffs, it's all gravy from there. They could have moved on. I mean, who knows if they do, right? They could have played Philadelphia, moved on from there, and XYZ happens, right? So, and then been later. So I guess their mindset, and they even said it, because they said exactly what I said, is that they're not going to be in contention for one of the top quarterbacks in the next 4 years unless they trade, unless they trade up to go get it. That is what they said, and that's what my mindset came to it. Is that when they got Kirk Cousins, that's exactly what they said.
They're lying to themselves, because if you draft a quarterback in the top 10, you do think he's going to be a top 4 quarterback coming up. You wouldn't draft in the top 10 if you didn't believe that. Yes, I know that's what they verbally said them out there. They're fucking lying to themselves, because you don't do that with a number 8 pick if you don't think he's going to be a top 4 quarterback.
Yeah.
They're lying to themselves. Because if I thought that Kirk Cousins was that damn good, then why am I going out here and drafting a quarterback? If I thought I was that damn close, then why would I go out here, pay a guy that type of money, and then go draft something else? You didn't see the fucking Jets go up here and go draft a quarterback at the beginning. It would have been stupid. You went and put your investment in Rodgers. At that point, you do what you can to push over the finish line. You can't do both. It doesn't work that way. If you got an example in NFL history where it's worked, please go ahead and give it to me, because that's not how this shit works.
I just go off what you always say, is that a backup quarterback, having a great backup quarterback is not a bad thing.
You don't draft a backup quarterback with the number 8 pick while you pay another guy $200 million. Then you go out there and you could have got somebody in the second round. You could have traded back in it.
But here's the thing, though. In defense of the Falcons, this contract is structured more like a 2-year deal than a 4-year deal, right?
There's a team option after the second.
And chances are they already said we're willing to take a hit after year 1. Because if it doesn't work out in year 1 and he proves that he's hobbling his weight, like he's not healing well, right? So if he's out early and then Penix steps in and it's like there's no way he's going to win this job back, it's a big wash in year 2. But there's a lot of dead money in year 3 and year 4, and I think they planned the contract that way, that they needed to know that somebody may have to be. We have to have our starter for 2026. Do we gamble that we're going to be bad? Because chances are they're going to win the South, which means they're going to be in the playoffs, which means they're not getting anything better than a maybe 18th, 19th, 20th pick in the next 2 or 3 years.
But where is that a mistake at? Okay, so if they take the dead cap money hit, and let's say Penix does hit, now you can't go build around Penix because you're having dead cap money. So now you have your rookie quarterback, but you're still paying $150 million over here. What do we talk about is the goal in football? If you can go get the Purdy situation where you have the young guy and you don't have a bunch of dead cap you go build around, you also have now handicapped yourself from putting other stuff around Penix then. Mm-hmm. So if he does hit, you're still handicapped him because you put Cousins on that deal. They need to make
I don't like the fact that they gave Cousins a 4-year deal. I don't like the fact that he's 35 years old and they gave him that 2-year guarantee, that 4-year. But I believe wholeheartedly they think they made a mistake, and they think that his Achilles is not going to hold up because he's 35. We all know this, Jamie. I mean, we all know this, that when we get older, our joints and everything do not age well. I mean, he has the best treatment in the world, but I'm totally in agreement with you, Trey, that like you don't pay a guy $200 million for him to sit on the bench. I mean, we kind of did that to Carson Wentz, and Big Dick Nick fucking won us a championship. So I mean, it's proven in the pudding that the backup quarterback can win you a championship. But I like the Penix move because I really do like Michael Penix Jr. And I think that's where I'm stuck at on that pick, is that I think he was the future.
Like Michael Penix Jr., but I think they're fucking him over in the long run. But I do think the dead cap money situation could happen that we just basically talked about.
Correct, and it's going to hurt him a lot.
If him sitting behind Kirk is going to really develop him in that type of way.
Especially when Kirk is like, what the fuck?
Especially when
Kirk had no right to say anything. He never played a game for the Falcons.
Yeah, but I don't know why Kirk is saying anything anyways, because motherfucker, you getting paid, so shut the fuck up and just play on a team, and who cares who they draft? I understand you want to win. But you ain't got no. I agree with Stephen A. earlier. He was just like, he has no room to talk because you're getting paid. So sit your ass down, get paid, and go off into the sunset. I get you want to win, but you clearly didn't want to win because you left the best receiver in football in Minnesota. So you know that's.
I think Mike had a point. What was your point,
Mike? Here's what it comes down to. I agree with you guys. Like, I also like Penix as a quarterback, and I like Penix as a quarterback for the Falcons. But from my perspective, you don't even got to trade down. Take Odunze with 8, get yourself a number 1 receiver, and frankly, I think Penix was going to be there with the number 3 pick in the second round.
I don't.
The Raiders would have taken him instead of him.
Raiders would have definitely taken him.
I think the Raiders still take Bowers. because the
No,
Raiders could have
because-
gone in any other direction with
Well, it would have been the Broncos then. The Broncos were drafting before, so if it wasn't the Raiders, the Broncos.
I don't think the Broncos.
I think
I think the Broncos
blocked
wanted
Bo
Bo Nix. They wanted
Yeah.
Bo Nix.
The Broncos had it had been all out there. They were all in both games. I think the Raiders would have been the team to possibly do it, but who's to say the Falcons couldn't have done what Mike said and maybe worst case traded back up to go get him if you wanted to go get him and pair your future.
Right.
something.
Because I guess my thing too is when we talk about the Falcons, the time doesn't. When I look at this, you got Bijan's young, you got Drake London's young. They all line up with Penix. They don't line up with Cousins. Like
Right,
that's
the timeline is on your side to continue to build the team, not go get a backup with the number 8 pick.
Yeah,
Maybe all of us are here saying 2 years from now, what a brilliant move, because if Cousins didn't work out and Penix can develop in year 2, and now they've won 2 NFC South championships in a row with 2 different quarterbacks, and they have their quarterback of the future, then maybe
Personally, I said this in the beginning. I said Michael Penix is the best quarterback in this draft. I said that before the draft. I said that back in week 2 of college football, that he is the best quarterback in this draft. And that's hard because not a lot of lefties can go in the NFL except a couple that I've known in my entire life, Michael Vick being the king of all of them, that have successfully been a quarterback in the NFL, and I think he is the best one. So that's where I kind of see their vision too. But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Like number 8 pick, maybe not the best time to do that unless you didn't have a court. Like if they didn't sign Kirk, okay, all day.
If they didn't sign Kirk, I would have been cool with that. But once you did that, that's why I really hate the pick.
Right.
It's because you signed Kirk and not because you signed Penix. Because and the funny thing about it, I see what Jamie's saying. What if they do go out here and they win 2 NFC championships? But you know what's going to happen? I envision us being on the show and saying, damn, only if they didn't have $200 million in dead space, they could have went and signed, fill in X
Debo
or
really
fill in X receiver that's now open, that they could have went and got. We're going to be like, oh, yeah, why? Because they have fucking Kirk Cousins. I think that's going to happen. I think he'll turn out good, and then we'll be looking at their shitty cap situation. They fucked him over.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know. I mean, the draft, I think a lot of the teams did a lot better from round 2 on, which is weird, right? Like you're supposed to hit on your first picks, but I feel like a lot of teams did a lot better on their futures. Like, okay, this guy can really help us.
Bigger question mark with first round pick: Atlanta or San Francisco?
What, Kenny? Who did San Francisco take again?
Pierce.
I mean, with them shopping. With them potentially shopping Ayuk, with him asking for a trade, and potentially shopping Debo, I was about to say Debo too, that's not a bad pick because
potentially it doesn't mean that either one of them are going to be shopped.
But I mean, you got. I think those 2 are gone because
remember they went out drafted. I forgot who else, but they drafted another receiver later. They kept going for receiver.
They're trying to build around a young quarterback and. Honestly, Debo's had a lot of injuries over the last 3 years that have really hindered him.
Also being the reason that you're probably making deep playoff runs too with his.
Well, George Kittle being open in the middle of the field somehow.
Be honest, I would trade Debo.
Christian McCaffrey keeps the defense too.
Ayuk is young enough.
Ayuk's younger and hasn't had the injuries Debo has, because if you take the Bill Belichick method, is I'm getting out of this before the value goes. You could get a lot of value for Debo now. Keep playing around with fire, he's going to be hurt, and you're not going to get the value of him. So Debo, to me, would be the one that I'm getting.
I see Brandon Ayuk going to Washington. Not only just because of Jaden Daniels, but I just see that Washington just has a lot of cap space and a lot of opportunity to trade away something that they can just they're not afraid to be aggressive in that light. Right. And if that happens, Jesus, watch out, Washington.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think Debo's more. I think Washington takes one. I just think it's going to be Debo because I think the 49ers are going to say we'll keep the younger guy and trade Debo, and then Washington's, because they want to make a splash, is going to take the name. I think so. Actually, I think that is more likely what happens. Yeah, because Debo has the bigger name.
They have pretty much kind of wasted Debo. Not wasted him, but they've used and abused him kind of with making him a running back / receiver. Yeah, so at this point, I can see Debo being tired and be like, damn, let me just go to a team where I can be maybe the number 2 or 3 guy and just kind of get a ring.
Right. But just be a receiver.
I don't know what he is because that's what he was in college.
Where it would be the
what?
The best place for him would be a couple miles south. The best place for Debo right now would be the Chargers.
Charge. Oh, yeah. I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right,
actually, they need that vet, so I can see it. Somebody be the OG in the locker room because they traded.
They got rid of
with
theirs.
all they got is basically they got a bunch of kids in the receiver locker room. Yep. So just when you put somebody to be the adult in the locker room, as in the receiver locker room.
Exactly.
Joe Alt will be the grown man in that locker.
No, he's always in every locker room.
Jordan Speith said he's hitting the reset button after seeing his fellow Texan, Scotty Scheffler, win 4 out of the last 5 events. And it's inspiring. And it should be inspiring for a lot of these guys on the PGA Tour because it can happen to them at any point. They just need to lock in and get their game back. I think they're too in their head about their golf game. I know me personally as an amateur golfer that I am, a weekend warrior, as I should say. When I'm out in the range and I'm hitting the ball and I'm all over the place, my game goes to hell. So I can't imagine when you're doing this for a living and you're just not contending when your expectations are here and you're way down there. Jordan Speed, Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, guys of that stature should be contending for any tournament and contending with Scotty and pushing him to the ultimate best. And Scotty is just blowing away the entire field. I hope this reign by Scotty Scheffler has motivated these guys to hit the reset button, go back to the fundamentals, and get out there and play golf they know how to play, because it's a lot fun when you see Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, and a bunch of the younger guys contending with Scotty and pushing him, and on Sunday seeing them walk down 18 and have a chance to win the tournament. So guys, hit the reset button. We got the PGA Championship coming up, and let's see some great golf during the PGA Championship in Valhalla. Cut the draft talk out and get to our special time of the show where we didn't get to do Stump the Squad last week. Kind of missed it. I missed winning, but let's get to it, boys. It's time for Stump the Squad. Grandpa Jay, take it away.
Yeah, boys and girls, ghouls and goblins, you know what time it is. It is our favorite time of the show. That is Stump the Squad. So if you guys want to play along, if you get it right, give yourself 2 points. If you get it wrong, give yourself -2 points. If you beat one of us, go ahead and hit us up on our socials and say, hey, I beat all y'all mofos. I should get the point this week. It's been a pretty heated battle. Trey seems to be pulling ahead slightly, but I think I'm going to do something about that this week. So let's get straight to it. John, I know you got a baseball question for us, so go ahead.
Absolutely not. I have a Stanley Cup playoff one. What year was the Stanley Cup first awarded? What year?
Award.
1876, 1893, 1909, 1917.
Go to choice again.
1876, 1893, 1909, 1917. And the question was, what year was the Stanley Cup first awarded?
1909.
Well, it wasn't called the Stanley Cup for a while, so are we considering it still being the Stanley Cup even though it wasn't called it?
Well, was it when the actual Stanley Cup was first awarded? Is that the question?
Yeah.
That's what I just said. What
Was
year
the
was the Stanley Cup first awarded?
Right, but
That's
it
what
wasn't
I'm
called
saying.
the Stanley Cup at
That's what
first.
he's saying. Yeah.
No, I
That's
mean,
what
I'm
I'm-
just
that's-
up yet. Yeah.
That's what I'm
But
asking.
the Stanley Cup. When was the Stanley Cup awarded? Okay.
What was the one
I'll
after,
go ni-
what was the one
I'll go
after
The
1917.
question is very simple.
What was the one after
The
1909?
NFL championship.
1917.
Super Bowl starts at a certain point.
I'm going to go 1917.
Yeah, me too, because I think they were making a big deal out of 125th anniversary, so I'll go 1917.
Well, today I successfully stumped everyone. It is 1893.
Damn it.
And it was awarded to the first awarded to Montreal Amateur Athletic Association Hockey Club. That's a hell of a
AKA
name.
who became, I believe, the
So
Montreal Canadiens.
1893. -2 for all you.
Suckers.
All right, so let's go TreyDay.
Okay, let's see. NBA playoff time. Okay, so who has committed the most personal fouls in NBA playoff history?
Oh, God.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaq, Karl Malone, or Tim Duncan?
Karl Malone. Say Karl Malone. Foul a lot.
Trey did say in a corner 3 he would never include Karl Malone on any list of his.
Mm-hmm.
So does that?
Who was the first name?
So I'll go back all 4. Kareem
I know the other
Abdul-Jabbar,
Mhm.
Shaq, Karl Malone, or Tim Duncan?
Shaq.
John's going Shaq.
Shaq.
Kareem.
Yeah, I feel Kareem. It's either Kareem or Timmy because they had so many deep runs in the playoffs. God damn it. And Tim Duncan did get into a lot of foul trouble at one point in his career. Damn.
We have a special guest.
Damn.
Is he there?
You
I
the
see
ears?
him.
Ah! All I saw was ears moving behind me, and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah, when you pointed,
ta-da!"
I just saw
Don't be having him help you cheat.
I'll go with Kareem.
Okay, so see, John, I knew he was cheating. That's how John's been doing good lately. Unfortunately for John,
I got it wrong."
he's the only one who got stumped on that question. So
That's
I guess
Kareem.
Bubba didn't help him too much. It is Kareem.
Yeah, I had a feeling it was Kareem because he's
You know-
like the silent guy, but he's also like he.
What
He
else?
also went to like
He's bigger
8
than
NBA
everyone.
finals,
Top
bro.
five.
He went to 8 NBA finals. So.
But he's also
Those
bigger
are
than a
the
lot of the
top
guys.
five. Those
Yeah.
are the 4 of the top 5 are those guys.
Yeah.
So
Okay. I thought Kareem because of I thought of it because of winning time, because I swear every time they showed him in the playoffs, it was like the ref calling a BS personal foul on him.
All
All
right,
right,
Mike.
Okay.
wait, I thought I was picking. I don't want to just ask the question. Mike, you can go ahead.
Thank you.
It's already up and ready.
Let's return to the NFL draft talk
No.
briefly, at least. In the 1988 NFL draft, how many picks did it take for the first quarterback to be taken? 47, 68, 73, or 90?
What year?
1988. How many picks in before the first quarterback?
The Troy Aikman draft.
Say it again.
So the full thing?
Trey
No,
was
just
8 now.
the answers.
The answers? Okay. A, 47, B, 68, C, 73, or D, 90?
73.
68.
Jeez.
73.
Those are my 2 answers. All right,
Which
I'm
would
going
be
to 73.
third
I was
round.
spinning between those 2 answers. I'm going 73.
Okay, so Jamie and Trey say 73. John says 68.
Mm-hmm.
This week I have successfully stumped Trey and Jamie. It is 68.
Yeah. So we got a tie?
You still got to ask your question.
Yeah, but is everybody tied right now?
Well,
No, because I haven't got anything right, so I know I'm not.
No, because you have minus. You have -2. Me and Mike have 0, and TreyDay has -4. So
Okay.
we all can tie, and then we got to ask Bubba for a
Depending on how this
tiebreaker.
goes.
All right, there we go. If it's a 4-way tie, we got to figure this out. So I actually have a baseball question tonight. Thanks to last night's showdown between the Rockies and Marlins, which was the first game in MLB history with a 5+ run top of the first and a 5+ run bottom of the ninth, with no runs in between. Unfortunately for the Colorado Rockies, though, they became the first team since 1900 to trail in each of its first 29 games. It broke a tie with the St. Louis Browns, not St. Louis, but we'll call them St. Louis, who set the record in what year after trailing in their first 28 games? So, was it 1907, 1910, 1911, or 1914?
1911.
1914.
1914.
You said 1907 was an option, right?
Of course I did.
We live and die by the 7. 1907.
Live and die by the 7. Gentlemen, this is quite amazing because I have managed to stump every single one of you guys, even though you gave me 3 different answers. It was 1910.
Well, TreyDay's got to give us a tiebreaker.
All right, I got it up. Who's all in this? Everybody?
It's all 3 of us.
All 3 of you. Okay.
My favorite time, overtime. So I'm out.
Back to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Okay.
How many playoff fouls did he commit? Come on,
Jesus
Let's see. Yeah.
How many playoff fouls did Kareem commit in his career?
Ah,
Can I ask for a vowel?
Can I spin the wheel?
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has a lot of vowels in his name.
Yeah, he does.
He does. Give me an E. Jesus. You would be Trey. You would make a very good Vanna White.
Thank you. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. You're welcome. I got you. Oh, jeez. I don't even. The problem is, I don't even know what number to start with.
Yeah, neither do I. Like I'm going through my head. Like
812.
Woo.
Okay, so Jamie's going 812. Hold on a second. No. Jamie is 812. Okay.
That's a shit ton of fouls. I mean, he made a lot of deep runs, but
I mean, he has what 11 rings, or is that Bill Russell?
no, that's Bill Russell.
11.
But he has.
Technically, Bill Russell is 13.
Yeah, 13.
11 is a player.
I'm gonna go. I don't know. 786.
Fucking Price is Right, mofo.
What do you mean Price is Right? I didn't go 8.
You know what?
13.
You lowball me.
I said it in Jamie's question. We live and die by the 7. I will go 777.
He Price is Right. You there.
Yeah, bastard.
Oh, this is close. Hold on a second. I'm gonna do some
All right, Trey, go on and give me that.
Oh shit! We gotta do math.
It's closer than y'all probably realize. Hold on a second. This actually is going to take quick math.
Well, it's between Mike and Jamie, so.
What's the total? I can
No,
work
it
it out.
could be between you
No,
and Jamie.
no, you can't know the answer. No, you can't. You just
No, no.
We gave the answers already.
You'll know the answer in a minute.
Tell me the answer. I'll do the math.
I'm already doing it.
Impatient.
Okay, yep, I think we got a winner here.
This is where I'm going to add in the music.
Oh, you're already close. Okay, so today's Stump the Squad winner is John.
How?
How close?
Overtime.
The total number 797.
Oh!
So I was off.
What you guess, John? What you guess? 7 what?
786.
You were at
797.
15. John was at 11. That's why I said
I was at 812. I said 812. Oh, you mean my
said
difference
812
was
15
15?
points away.
Yeah, you were 15. He was 12.
God damn it. My first instinct
No,
was
that's what I said.
800. I just
I
thought it
should have
was-
gone in the middle of the two of them.
My
No,
math
no,
was
for-
he played a minimum. My math said he played at least 20 games every playoffs because they made so many deep runs, and he averaged 3.5 fouls a game. Right. So I did the math on that, and I multiplied that by 11, and it got me 800 and change. So I was like, should I do 800 or 800 and change?
No, no, that's why I said I was like, no. I was like, let me do the math.
Yeah, but if I didn't guess 812, these mofos would have said like 402 and like 500.
No, actually, I was in. When he
I thought you got win.
No. My first instinct was in 900s. That was my first instinct, and then I was going back in my head. So that's when I went into 7. I was like, nah, because it wasn't that. If it was Bill Russell, I would have went definitely probably like in the thousands. But
Like Russell and Will and stuff, yeah.
Congrats, John. You won in overtime.
so
Bravo.
I am Stump the Squad winner, and that means I moved to first place, tied for first with TreyDay with 3 wins. So the scoreboard reads TreyDay and me with 3, Mike with 2, and Jamie with 1. So let's go.
Overtime losses for me already.
Let's go. I've given you my curse. I've broken the curse of the great Bambino.
They say you have to stand on the shoulders of giants to win. So I hope my shoulders felt nice and broad and sturdy tonight.
Well, technically you are tall, so like you are a giant.
As we established.
Thanks for the shout out on last week's show about getting drafted. I would get drafted pretty early.
I was just being nice. I would take out all of you.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yes.
I'm the
Today's
GM
NFL first
making
15
this
picks all offense. Come on now.
What?
Today's NFL first 15 picks straight offense. Come on, man.
I'm a utility player. I play offense, defense,
Utility
bench, left bench, right bench,
Gatorade on this hip.
center bench.
High quality H2O on that hip.
Well, fellas, this was a great time as always, but unfortunately it has to come to an end. Any final thoughts heading into the weekend?
Let's go Rangers.
They don't play though, do they?
On the
Yeah,
weekend?
they got the second round series against the Canes starting on Monday, I think.
Yeah.
They don't play this week, do they?
Yeah. The series will start at the beginning of the week.
You know how it goes for me already, guys. It doesn't matter anymore because we dropped too many points. But let's beat those Spurs. Come on, Liverpool. Fuck Tottenham.
One quick note before I bounce out real quick. Question for y'all. Favorite number 5? Johnny Bench, Albert Pujols, or Joe DiMaggio? Cinco de Mayo's coming up. Cinco Squad. Shoot it out real quick. Who's your
Joe
favorite?
DiMaggio.
Say the answers again. I'm sorry.
Joe DiMaggio, Johnny Bench, or Albert Pujols? In honor of baseball season and Cinco de Mayo. Favorite number 5.
Joey D.
Albert Pujols.
How could you not say DiMaggio?
I never saw him play.
I didn't watch.
I neither did I, but Yankees is a principal. It's a principal thing.
Fuck the principal. I never seen him play.
Trey,
So I
who's your
can't
guy?
say.
Trey, who's your guy?
Pujols. I didn't watch Joe DiMaggio.
Well, no, wait. I'm writing in it. I got a write-in answer. Mine is Donovan McNabb. Hello.
I
He didn't
said
play
honor of
baseball.
Baseball, bro.
Did not play baseball.
He could have.
He probably could have.
He probably could have pitched, but he didn't. So
I'm writing in an answer. Write-in answer. Number 5, Donovan McNabb. There you go. Like our post again. Well, we'll see you guys here next week for episode 111. And make sure you guys tune into the socials because we've been live there lately. So, and make sure you tune into my the morning sequence with John. Me right before I go to the gym. So, we'll see you guys here next week at Cinco Squad Pod 05. All socials, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. See you guys next week.
Who's going fishing next? Miami went fishing tonight.